I made the best gelatin fatty gummies the other day, perfect for low carb dieters, those on carnivore, keto, animal based. And I've experimented a little bit and I have a couple different recipes to share with you. You're gonna wanna save this so that you can make it later and experiment with your own recipes. One of the things that people said when I first made these butter bites, I made them with salted butter, water, and this beef gelatin, was I wonder what it's gonna taste like when you do brown butter. So I've done that and I'm gonna show you that. These are the original recipe. I took 1/4 cup of butter, I melted that on the stove. I took a cup of water, I put it in a pot, but I didn't turn on the heat. And I put 3 tablespoons of gelatin to bloom inside that water. Then I slowly turned up the heat on the water and made sure that all of the gelatin dissolved. And then I added the butter, the melted butter, put it in a blender, and then simply poured it in a mold. And it's what made these buttery bites. Because gelatin is actually really useful for those who are starting a carnivore way of life, because many come into the carnivore lifestyle with digestive issues and leaky gut, and there are certain things in gelatin that can actually help your gut to repair the lining. It also helps with other things like skin, hair, and nails, and then also with things like anxiety. I'll go into that at the end of the video. So this was the one that I originally made, and then what I decided to do was switch it up. And with the fat source, this is tallow. I basically take a big tub of tallow and I put some in a small tub. I have that ready for me to cook with. So this is just a reusable jar with tallow in it. So I did the same process. The butter became the tallow. So I still dissolved all the gelatin in water, turned it up on the stove just a little bit to dissolve it, and then put tallow inside of it. I don't necessarily love these as much, but what I did was I actually added a little bit of lime to it. So let me show you that. So in this recipe, I also included these. I used to use these all the time in my water. It does have citric acid in it. So if you are very strict on carnivore and you are not including things like this, I would not do this. Or maybe what you would do is use some fresh lime juice. Just add another little layer of flavor, and it's actually pretty delicious. You do get a taste of tallow, so if you're not a fan of the way that tallow tastes, you might not like that version. And this is what everyone wanted to know about. This is the brown butter cinnamon gelatin bite. So I took 1/4 cup of unsalted butter this time. I used salted with the first one. So I did unsalted butter only because when you brown that butter, it is going to concentrate the salt flavor, and I didn't want these too salty. So I used unsalted butter, I browned it, and then I put the gelatin directly into that butter instead of water like the other recipes. And then I added some cinnamon. At the very end, I included 1/4 cup of water, and then I also added a little bit of heavy cream to make them extra creamy. And this is just basically like your brown butter bite that you make, just with gelatin. What comes through is definitely the cinnamon, and it is just basically like a brown butter bite. It doesn't have the crunch and the crisp like if you would store a brown butter bite in the freezer. So while it doesn't have the crunch, it has a really nice texture like, you know, a marshmallow or gelatin. And it's a nice way to switch things up. On the carnivore diet, sometimes things can feel really repetitive, and this is just a nice way to get a different texture into your snacks and your meals. This next one is reminiscent of all the Jell-O that we used to eat as kids, and this is simply just water, gelatin, and some of those lime packets. This citric acid is better than citric acid that's made from other things. Like if you actually look it up, citric acid is sometimes made from mold. It comes directly from fruit. So it's a nice way to flavor some sort of snack that you can eat on a no-carb, low-carb lifestyle. I wouldn't call this carnivore, obviously, because it's fruit, but this was super delicious and really refreshing. Makes you feel like you're having kind of like a gummy bear. I wanted to add a little extra sour to it, just to get that sort of Sour Patch Kid gummy bear texture and flavor. The next one that we did is kind of funky, but we used soda water. So my son decided to choose, this one is blackberry bubbly. So we dissolved the beef gelatin in the soda water. It got a little bit, you know, it got a little bit fizzy, and then I let that die down, and it was a little bit clumpy. So what I decided to do was turn on the stove just a little bit. I was trying to preserve the bubbles in this, and I don't know if you can see this, but we kind of got that. So you can't taste it. It's not super poppy with the bubbles, but you can definitely get the sense that this is made from the soda water, and it was a fun little addition, and my kids love it. And for kids, this is a fun way to give them some extra protein, give them some of that great collagen and that good digestive health inside a fun little gummy with no sugar. Okay, I told you I was experimenting. This one's a little weird, but I'm gonna keep experimenting with it. So I used a mold that creates little cake pops. In this one, I used water, I used an element packet, and nothing else. And so let me take one of these out. You would probably guess that it's very salty, and it is. But I have a couple friends who come to my gym who don't like the taste of any of the flavors of the element packets, and they sometimes just put it into like a shot of water and take it very quickly because they just don't like the salty taste. This might be another option for you if you're in the same boat. I would do this differently. I'm gonna play around with this one, I'll report back. But every once in a while, even though I recommend that you use the unflavored element packets for your electrolytes, every once in a while when I want something sweet and I know it's not gonna trigger me to go find other sweet things, I use one of the chocolate mint electrolytes, and I'll pour this in like half of it or a quarter of it. I'll pour it into coffee, and I was gonna experiment with how we might be able to add this sort of flavor to this brown butter bite and kind of combine these two flavors. I think that would be fun. So now I'm asking you, go experiment with it. Tell us what you get. Tag me in the post. I'd love to see it because this is kind of like a fun new addition to our carnivore lifestyle, keeping things fun and fresh and adding some great gelatin. Now let's talk about the science. So as a carnivore coach, I am typically helping people to troubleshoot their carnivore journey, whether they are very early on in carnivore and just starting out with keto flu symptoms or really fine-tuning things months or years down the road. And one thing that I always recommend is bone broth. And one of the things in bone broth that's really super helpful for you is the collagen. It is the amino acids, and it is the gut healing benefits. Inside gelatin, this is what I'm using, by the way, what you're going to get is glycine, really useful in helping you to strengthen and repair your gut lining. Many of us that come into a carnivore elimination diet are feeling symptoms from digestive troubles and with leaky gut. Inflammation is often spurred on by leaky gut. And so if your gut lining is not tight and connected and healthy, what's going to happen is pieces of your food are going to go into your body and you're going to produce inflammation. And that is some of the reason why some of the foods that you were eating before carnivore causes inflammation. So glycine is going to further help you to repair that gut lining and be able to absorb all the great nutrients that you're getting on the carnivore way of life. Collagen helps with your joints and your skin, so it's always a great idea to include that. Some people include this just in their coffee or hot beverages and they just drink it every morning. This is just kind of a fun way to go back to your youth and just get textures in the way that you're eating on carnivore. Last thing that this can help with is your sleep and your nervous system. And so the elements inside of beef gelatin can really help you with your mood stability. It can also help you with your nervous system, and it can promote better and deeper sleep. So go ahead and try it, have some fun with these recipes, and definitely tag me and let me know what you're putting into your beef gelatin gummies.